Hey, welcome to our kitchen. We got a lot going on in the kitchen today, so it's looking a little bit cluttered and messy. We're making some homemade sourdough pizza crusts, but what I wanted to do today is kind of give you guys a rundown on how we make our homemade kombucha. So I've got my kombucha here with the scobies on top, always kind of funky looking, and I just wanted to show you how we make our fruit kombucha. So basically what I'm doing right now is I'm making like a tea concentrate. So we use bulk herbal loose leaf teas that come from Bulk Barn. They've got some really nice flavors like strawberry cream and raspberry lemonade, and they use bits of fruit and hibiscus flowers to give them this nice red color. So basically I'm just using my coffee filter here and steeping those teas in some water. What I try to do, and actually I've added a couple of frozen strawberries in there too, just to give it a little bit more flavor. So what I try to do is I try to make kind of like a fruit tea concentrate, and then to that concentrate I'm gonna add a little bit of sugar. So per bottle I usually use about a teaspoon of sugar to sweeten up the tea a little bit. So I'm just going to do that now. 1, 2, 3. I got 4 or 5 bottles here to fill, so that should do it. So the reason why I make it as a concentrate is it just makes it easier to dissolve the sugar because it's still nice and hot from the boiling water that I steeped it in. And then once I've got sugar still dissolving, you can see the nice red color of it. So this is a 1 liter measuring cup, and I find that if I fill this up pretty much right to the top, so it'll go just a little bit beyond the liter, I can get about 6 cups of tea, and that'll fill 6 of these bottles. So we basically just saved up a bunch of the kombucha that we had drank over a period of a couple of months or a couple of weeks or whatever, and we just clean those and reuse those each time. So now I've got my concentrate here watered down, and to this I'm going to add that in there. 1 cup, so I got 1 cup here, and I'm just going to add 1 cup of my tea to each of these kombucha bottles. So basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get these guys almost halfway full with tea. And I mean, there's so many different combinations that you could use, fruit flavors and things like that you could use for these guys. We like the strawberry cream, and the raspberry lemonade is a really good one. We've tried blueberry. We really like a blueberry holy basil combination. They complement each other really nicely. And this is a double bottle, so this guy's going to get 2. Divvy up the rest among these guys. Okay, so I'm not quite halfway on each of these bottles with the tea. And then what we like to do is we like to kind of top it up to the halfway mark with fruit juices. So we've just got a variety of different Oasis fruit juices, fruit fusion, grape, watermelon, that kind of thing. And I'm just looking to use a little bit of juice just to add a little bit more fruit flavor to it. Kind of get these guys up to about the halfway mark. So really overall not a whole lot of sugar in them. Okay, so step 1 would be getting these kind of topped up with the tea and and juice blend. Whatever you have. We've tried mango coconut, coconut water and lime. Yeah, like I said, the blueberry, the strawberry is probably one of our favorites. This guy's gonna take a little more. Get that one up to the halfway mark. Okay, that's pretty good. So each of the bottles is now halfway full with our tea fruit juice blend. And then basically all I'm gonna do now, if you wanna come around over here, is we've got I found these mason jars with a spigot on them at the dollar store, and I find they're really good for getting your kombucha tea out without disturbing the SCOBY too much. So if I was trying to tip it and pour it, then that kind of disturbs the SCOBY and it clogs up or almost wants to come out on you. So if you use the dollar store spigot option, then it just makes it really easy to fill up. So I'm going close to the top, and then just throwing a lid on here and basically screwing that lid on nice and tight, because what we want to do now is we want to stick these in a cool dark place, like in your cupboard or something like that, and give them about 3 to 4 days to carbonate. So the way that we make our kombucha is kind of a two-stage process. So stage 1 is actually brewing the kombucha, and I'll explain that afterwards once I get this stuff done. So basically we're brewing the kombucha. That's going to take, depending on how warm or cold your house is, 4 or 5 days to get that done. And then once the kombucha is brewed, then stage 2 is what we're doing right now, which is kind of mixing the kombucha half and half with fruit juice. And then there's enough cells, yeast and bacterial cells inside the kombucha kind of floating around, that once we cap these guys up and stick them in a cupboard, in about 4 or 5 days, they will be carbonated and ready to drink. So I'm just going to kind of continue filling these guys up, and then we'll check back in and I'll show you how to top up your kombucha so it's ready to go for another round next time. Okay, we're back. So we got all of our bottles filled up, ready to be put away until, well, 4 or 5 days, like I said. So probably Monday, Tuesday, they'll be ready to go for us. And like I said, lids are on nice and tight to make sure they get carbonated. And basically what I'm doing now is I'm going to refill my 2 bottles of kombucha here so they're ready to go for next time. So you'll notice that there's some kombucha left over in the bottoms of each of these bottles, and that's important. You want to leave a couple of cups behind, because the acidic environment that the SCOBYs create are sort of what protect them from getting infected by unwanted organisms, bacteria and yeast and things like that. So you want to leave enough behind that when you refeed it, it's not vulnerable to getting an infection. So each of these have some left behind, and then the ratio is basically for every liter of kombucha that you're making with your SCOBY, you want to use 2 tea bags and a 1/4 cup of sugar per liter, right? So we got 2 liters here, so 4 tea bags, 1/2 cup of sugar, and then this one for this liter here, 2 tea bags and a 1/4 cup of sugar. And we use a combination, half black and half green tea, and that's just what we like. So that's a 1/4 cup for that guy, which looks like a lot, but the SCOBY eats it up and turns it into all the good stuff. And again, I'm just using the same method of making a concentrate. So I've got the boiling water in there that I steep the tea bags in, and that's going to help to dissolve the sugar. And then once the sugar's all dissolved, then I'll top it up with cold water, and then I can fill up the kombucha bottle, and the liquid going in is not going to be too hot, and it's not going to kill the SCOBY, right? So if you topped it up too soon, then it's going to be hard to dissolve your sugar. But I definitely don't want to use all hot water and then pour that in, because that's going to cause problems. So, got the sugar dissolved. Feed those SCOBYs, keep them happy. We've had these going for quite a while, and they multiply, right? So you can divide them up and make more. So I'm gonna say we've had these going, well actually the original SCOBY is over 5 years old. And if you're not gonna use it for a while, you can make a tea concentrate, feed it, leave it in there, it'll chew it all up, it'll make a fair bit of vinegar over time, a little bit of alcohol, and then stick that in the fridge, and then it's stable and it can sit like that for quite a while. The SCOBYs are pretty resilient little guys, and you can leave it like that if you're not going to be making any for a bit, and then pick it up, take it out, feed it again, and it'll come back for you and you can keep using it. So they're good for a long time. I guess pretty much indefinitely if you want it. So I'm filling this up. Doesn't really matter how much I put in. Again, I just want to make sure that I'm creating something that's not too hot. For when it goes back in. So we'll do this guy first. Ready to go. And if we have any left over, I can just add it to the big one. That's probably good. I'll put the lid all the way on. And we find with these metal lids on these mason jars, if they get moisture on them, they tend to want to rust a little bit on the inside. So I've just got a piece of plastic cling wrap on there first, just to protect the metal lid from rusting. Take my little kombucha baby. Drink up. Still got it ready to go. Close. Okay, good. Done. Ready to go for next time. So like I said, basically 5 days to a week for this to be ready to be bottled again. And it just, again, it depends on how warm your house is. So we found in the wintertime, we were keeping these guys in our cupboards, and we could 4 or 5 days guaranteed it would be ready to go to fill the bottles up, and then 4 or 5 days on those guys, they'd be carbonated and ready to drink. If you let them go more than a week, then they can start to become over-carbonated. You want to stick them in the fridge to slow that down. And then we got a hot spell here. It started to warm up when we were getting some days that were close to 30 out there, and this started going a lot faster, and those started carbonating a lot faster, and they were done in like 2 days and like really carbonated, and they didn't taste quite as good. So slow and low is probably the way to go. So now we're just keeping these in the basement, and we'll just leave them down there, and then when they're ready to go, this is the whole process. So basically making that tea concentrate, half tea, a little bit of fruit juice in the bottle, topping it up with the kombucha, and then refeeding the kombucha for the next round. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you guys next time.